Omaha, like so many cities, is hit hard by drugs. A lot of it flows in from Mexico.
The 3 News Now investigative team traveled down to the U.S. border in February before the pandemic to get a first-hand look at the war on drugs and the attempts to stem the flow into Nebraska. Jeff Van Sant has our story.
Drugs like meth plague our streets. More than 250 pounds seized in Omaha last year. Most of it comes from Mexico. The battle to stop the flow of meth in our country is constant. In this series, we'll take you to the southwest border with Mexico, and you'll see the enormity of this fight from the front lines.
As you can see, it is sometimes a messy job.
Two unlikely friends. Josh is from California. Tyler from Omaha. Struggle is what brought these two together.
It's like the little brother I never wanted.
A struggle with addiction, for Josh, heroin.
I started around 28. I got injured at work, got prescribed Vicodin, and then that snowballed into Oxycontin into heroin.
Tyler, cocaine.
It's a nightmare, because you're fine 1 second, and then next thing you know, you lose everything. Like, I've burnt so many bridges with my family and my friends.
Their journey into drugs is all too common in our world. Fentanyl, meth, opioids plague the Midwest.
To give you put it in perspective, last year we seized, just the DEA here in Omaha seized 250 pounds of meth, which is a lot of methamphetamine for this region. Years prior, we seized 80 pounds.
Omaha is a ripe target.
If you look at the geography of, let's say, Omaha, you have I-29 running north and south, and I-80 running, major pipeline running east and west. Omaha sits right at the crosshairs of those two interstates.
A spider web of dealers, transporters, a drug pipeline that spans thousands of miles, and most is traced back to Mexico. The vast U.S. border is the battlefield. 3 News Now investigators traveled to the San Diego sector of the border. From a bird's eye view,
you'll see the terrain start to rise.
To ocean,
it is a cat and mouse game.
To land.
Let's go. We have a high rate of seizures and violations that our officers are trained to detect.
And experience what it's like protecting our southern border.
We've been discovering tunnels since the early 90s.
Tax secured?
Yep.
Thank you.
We begin our journey at the mouth of San Diego Bay.
Just looking ahead, there's probably a good 50 plus boats, and it's a Monday afternoon.
Riding with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They're responsible for protecting 931 miles of California coastline and a short boat ride away from Mexico.
If it was a nice clear day, we'd see Tijuana. It's just over 7 miles.
Here, any boat can be suspect, from drugs to human trafficking.
This last fiscal year, we had the largest number of seizures in several fiscal years.
Crews like this patrol in fast boats.
Because oftentimes, we're in a tail chase, or we have to play catch up. We work off of intelligence. We work off our aircraft spotting targets that are most oftentimes far offshore.
Here you can see one such chase. Boats and aircraft chase this drug boat, eventually catching up and snagging the smugglers. But a lot of it gets through.
They go as far out as 200 nautical miles. A large Ponga style, it's an open platform Mexican fishing vessel, which is very capable of high speed, 40 plus knots, and carrying upwards of 3,000 pounds total, to include cargo, whether it's people, it's narcotics, and or fuel. And they'll take enough fuel with them to go up to San Francisco.
The cartels are always using very interesting tactics. One of them is to use fast, swift boats to come up onto a beach like this, then quickly run to a waiting car.
So oftentimes our beaches are littered with these smuggling vessels because it's not worth it for the smugglers to try to recover a beach landing and go back out to sea and then back to Mexico.
Sometimes it's an impossible task. Drug cartels use spotters at the mouth of the bay, high up in an area like Point Loma. Watching the movement of law enforcement and smugglers can be anyone, it's not obvious.
There are several instances where the smugglers hire American citizens, United States citizens, to sit on top of the boat to try to make us think that it's just a mom and pop, or they could use kids on board.
The seizures can be massive. In 2019, more than 284,000 pounds of cocaine, nearly 102,000 in marijuana, 51,000 pounds of meth. It's hard to really get a sense of the vastness of the area they cover. You feel like a needle in a haystack. So much to cover. And it's not just these boats. You have helicopters overhead, fixed-wing aircraft, all working together to keep this sector safe and to continue the cat and mouse game.
And their job is to circumvent us, to deliver their product, whether it's humans or some type of cargo like narcotics, and it's our job to identify them.
Tomorrow, we take you to the busiest port of entry in the Western Hemisphere, where thousands of cars and trucks and semis cross every single day, and how border agents have to be able to find a needle in a haystack. Jeff Van Sant, 3 News Now.
For more on this story and all of our investigative team stories, you can go to our website, 3newsnow.com. And if you have a story for the investigators, you can email it to investigate@3newsnow.com.